Hello and welcome to JPod. This is a podcast on journalists and journalism. My name is Krishna Prasad and it's great to see you here. Coronavirus has had a strange effect on Indian media. Pakistan has suddenly fallen off the radar. Well, not forever, not entirely, but certainly visibly and somewhat substantially. A sudden intimation of mortality has distracted studio warriors from their assigned task of protecting India's borders by building walls in the minds of Indians. But Pakistan is every bit as affected as India by the pandemic, just as is their media. Like in India, Pakistani media is suffering from a huge revenue shortfall due to the severe collapse of the economy. Like here, there are layoffs and shutdowns. Like here, there are salary cuts and delayed salaries. The respected magazine Newsline died in December just before Corona arrived. And two TV news channels, AAP News and Indus News, have shut shop since. And like here, there is pressure from the government and from non-state actors on the media. The screws are being loudly tightened in ways well known to Indians. Shakilur Rahman, the editor-in-chief of the Jung Media Group, which also owns the news channel Jio TV, has been arrested in a 30-year-old case involving land purchase. Hamid Haroon, the CEO of Pakistan's most respected English newspaper Dawn, has been accused of rape in a 13-year-old case. India and Pakistan, it would seem, are two countries joined at the hip of media grief at this time of coronavirus. For Imran Khan, who rode to power promising change and a Naya Pakistan, it's very old wine in a Rooh Afza bottle. The glamorous cricket captain who entered the political consciousness of Pakistanis using the media no longer seems to have any use for it as Prime Minister. Pakistan is now 145th on the World Press Freedom Index compiled by Reporters Without Borders. India is no better, just a little higher at number 142. Senior journalists in Pakistan say this is one of the darkest periods and decades in the country's media history. In this episode of JPod, I am joined from Lahore by the Pakistani journalist Mehmal Sarfraz to discuss how Pakistani media has fared during the time of coronavirus. Mehmal is the former op-ed editor of Daily Times. She is also the Deputy Secretary General of the South Asia Free Media Association SAFMA and writes for the Hindu and the Telegraph among other newspapers in India. Mehmalji, good afternoon and welcome to JPod, this podcast on journalism and journalists. It's great to talk to you from across the border in Pakistan. We are two countries, of course, divided by many things, but certainly we are also united by where we are on the World Press Freedom Index. We are now on 142, the position that Pakistan occupied till recently, and Pakistan has now slipped down to 145. And, it struck me that this situation for Pakistan seems to be, despite the overwhelming belief that Pakistani media is more courageous and more vibrant, and yet it seems to be slipping on the World Press Freedom Index. Why would you say so?
Thank you, Krishna ji, for having me today. Well, I think the reason that we've slipped 3 places is because of the censorship that Pakistani media is facing. While I do believe that, Pakistani media that way is actually more courageous in a way that the threats to our lives are real. Then, there are other threats. You can be picked up. There are other issues as well, although they've not been happening that regularly in recent years. But even then, the threat is real and it's still there. But the main problem is censorship. And if you read the report by RSF on the World Press Freedom Index 2020, it mentions how this government has basically is actually doing what the big bosses really
Yes.
want them to do. So the arm twisting that this government has done, I mean, it's not like there wasn't this pressure before on the previous governments. There were two democratic governments before PTI's government came into power in 2018. So there was the PMLN and there was the People's Party. But I think that they resisted a lot of state pressure, and they gave a lot of freedom to the media. Even though the threats, the other threats that were real, that came from state and non-state actors, were just there. But this government does not really believe in media freedom. If you look at their statements, I mean,
Yes.
in recent months, Prime Minister Imran Khan and his team have actually been discrediting media. At Davos, Prime Minister Imran Khan said that, I have stopped reading newspapers and I've stopped watching these current affairs talk shows because, there's nothing much substantial in them. And then just recently, I think it was just 2-3 days ago, that he said that, what is the purpose of these current affairs talk shows? Because they don't lead to any solution or, resolution of an issue. So I think that it's basically the government itself does not like criticism. The PTI government is very sensitive to criticism from the media, even though PTI was actually, and Imran Khan was the poster boy of Pakistani media just before he came to power. And even after he came to power, the media was very soft on Prime Minister Imran Khan and PTI, despite their faults. But the thing is that, after 1.5 years, you look at their performance, obviously the media is going to criticize you if the economy is, and this is, I'm talking about pre-corona days.
Yes.
So the economy was already failing before corona, and we were going through a very hard time. So, and of course there were other internal PTI problems as well. And then, there were a lot of attacks on media freedom. There was so much censorship. Dawn newspaper was stopped in, the hawkers couldn't really deliver
Distribute.
them, distribute the papers. Then, there was Dawn channel was not on many cables, or like it was thrown back on a lot of channels. Then the same thing happened with Jio TV, that, what they usually do is that, because Jio will be in the top 10 channels, it's actually the top rated channel. So on your cable, you will get it in the first 10 channels listing. But when they have to censor it, what they usually do is that they tell the cable operators to just throw it like at 80 or 90 number, right? So, so that's something that people just can't find you, and then they're like, okay, whatever. So that's something that they do. Then that happened. Then Jung and Jio's owner and editor-in-chief, Mir Shakilur Rahman, was arrested recently.
Let's come to that in a minute. So in short, are you trying to say that media freedom in Pakistan in 2020 is worse than what it was in previous years? That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because of censorship. There's so much censorship. I mean, a lot of TV programs are now recorded, and, then they are censored according to, because they know that, this thing can't go on. If it goes, then, the channels will either start getting calls from PEMRA or from the Ministry of Information or from the government. Or whoever, and so they have to be very careful.
Did this report, the Reporters Without Borders report, the World Press Freedom Index report, which puts Pakistan at 145 in a world of 180 countries, was this news reported by newspapers and TV stations?
Yes, it was. It was also discussed on television channels. Although I'll say that, we kind of self-censored the sensitive parts, but the parts of the government and, how Dawn's distribution and Jio's distribution was it had an impact because of censorship. So that was reported, yes.
So in some senses, you're actually better off than us, in the sense that the fact that India is slipping every year on the World Press Freedom Index and landing up at 142 in this year, this bit of news was barely reported in the Indian media. So I think there is something still to be positive about in Pakistan.
That way we mention these things everywhere, like on every talk show, and, there were editorials about it as well. And, almost all the papers, I think English papers covered it. And, So this is something that, we do that I think Krishna ji, there's a difference in the Indian media and Pakistani media in the sense that, Indian media is very corporate. I mean, the corporations own it and big businesses own the Indian media or influence. I mean, the advertising from the private sector is so much that, there's this whole, influence of these big businesses. In Pakistan, that's not the case because our economy is not that great. So private advertising, of course, it's there and it's heavy. But even then, big corporations don't really influence media houses as much as, the state or its policy does.
No, I mean, the irony and paradox in some ways is that Narendra Modi did not particularly show any great affinity for the media even before becoming prime minister. So we are not surprised that media freedom in India has slipped so low. On the other hand, I think Imran Khan, with his education, with his articulation, came with a certain set of expectations, certainly for us within the media, right? So therefore, how do you understand and what kind of sense do you make of Imran Khan's complete transformation from a media darling to someone who hates the media? It can't just be, the talk shows. There must be more to this animosity that his culture cultivated and developed over the last few years.
So, there are a few things. You see, if you follow Imran Khan's career, because he was Pakistan's first legend, not first, but he was a legendary cricketer. He won us the only World Cup in 1992. Then he made Shaukat Khanum Hospital, which is a brilliant, great charity hospital. And, he's a great philanthropist. He was a brilliant cricketer, a legend. And also, he was Pakistan's answer to, I mean, you guys have your Bollywood stars and Hollywood has its Hollywood stars, but he was an answer to a star, a charismatic star. He was a playboy. He's a Teflon man. People want to be like him. And so I think that was something that, when he entered politics, because there was a bit of polarization. We had a two-party system at that time when he entered politics. There was the PMLN of Mr. Nawaz Sharif and the People's Party of late Benazir Bhutto. So there were just two parties. So some people, especially the younger generation, I'd say, did not really understand politics, and they actually grew up in the Musharraf years. So they basically thought that, the other two parties are just full of corrupt leaders. And because this is the propaganda, obviously, that, we've been fed from day one. And so that's something that the youngsters grew up with. And they kind of grew up disliking the politicians, the traditional politicians, or the traditional political leaders. So when Imran Khan came into politics, I mean, it took him 22 years to become the prime minister because he started his party a long time ago, back in the late 90s. But the media, and especially I'd say the electronic media, because our electronic media, independent electronic media, it started in 2002. Private electronic media in Pakistan. So basically the electronic media started highlighting Imran Khan a lot. He was on every talk show, every other talk show that you'd see if you take out the archives from 2002 till, 2016, 17. So he was everywhere. And I think actually the media genuinely loved him also, most of them. They thought that he was a star and, there's some hope there because obviously he brought this whole nara of, tabdili. Change.
And Naya Pakistan.
And Naya Pakistan. So there was a hope associated with him. But a lot of people like us who are called his critics, I mean, we actually saw how he reacted to any negative comments about him or his party. So, and also to the liberals. So, I remember that he gave this interview to Bakha Dutt. It was just before the 2013 elections, and he said that, the liberals are the scum of the earth. The Pakistani liberals are the scum of the earth. So because a lot of Pakistani liberals, most of them actually criticized him and called him Taliban Khan for his pro-Taliban policy and his statements about the Taliban. So that's something that, he did not like it at all. But even the media organizations like Jio and Jang Group, which actually propped him up a lot, and even in the 2013 elections, were, campaigning or giving him a lot of time, not campaigning, but giving PTI a lot of time or airtime compared to the other two parties. Even then, he lashed out at them when he was told to do so, when he thought that, the state was, did not like these channels. There was during his 2014 dharna, there was an attack. Before that, there was an attack on Hamid Mir also.
Yes.
So I think that even after the attack on Hamid Mir and all that, and then there was this whole campaign about Jio being funded by foreign countries, obviously full of lies.
Yes.
But so that's something that he actually kept saying, and he attacked Mir Shakilur Rahman by taking his name. Then he attacked Najam Sethi, who was the interim chief minister before the 2013 elections, and he kept propagating this lie about Painti Panchar. So Painti Panchar is something in Punjabi, basically means 35 punctures. And he actually alleged that, Najam Sethi, as Chief Minister of Punjab, caretaker Chief Minister, had helped PMLN rig 35 seats, which is not true. There's no evidence. And in fact, in one of the shows later on Hamid, I think it was Hamid Mir's show, where he said that, it was just a political statement. I don't have any evidence. So, and Najam Sethi also sued him. So this is something that, he kept doing this. Then there was this whole incident of Dawn leaks. And because there was a whole state narrative against Dawn after that, Imran Khan started targeting Dawn also. PTI started targeting Dawn also. So this is something that, I think it was inevitable. And I think it is actually, it has come as a surprise for those anchors who were PTI's darlings. But once the PTI government came into power, and when they started criticizing the PTI on its performance, the kind of hatred or the vile abuse that they got on social media, or the kind of reaction that they got from PTI leadership, was something I think that they were not expecting. And when that happened, obviously no media house or no journalist likes that. That, just because we are criticizing you, if you're going to just bombard us with, abuse and Twitter trends and stuff like that. So, that's something that came as a surprise to a lot. But I think that, now there's no illusion. Even a lot of people, a lot of media journalists, a lot of media organizations that used to praise Imran Khan are now constantly talking about lack of media freedom in Pakistan and censorship.
So therefore, you would say that things are worse than before, one, and two, that Imran Khan, this is the real Imran Khan we are seeing, and that people were actually misled earlier, and this is the real Imran Khan, right? In short.
Well, the thing is, this was always there for people to see, but it's just that, because they liked Imran Khan and they would always keep praising him, he didn't say anything to them. So maybe this is the first time that, they are actually getting the flack that people like us have been getting over the years for being critical of Imran Khan's statements or his policies or his lack of vision. So maybe that's that. And the other thing is that, as I said, he's a star. So stars obviously just like being hero worshipped and not really like being criticized. So I think that's also one of the factors, because he thinks that he can do no wrong. But if you're in the government, you obviously have to develop a thick skin.
But obviously, there's a difference between Narendra Modi and Imran Khan in the sense that despite Mr. Modi not quite liking the media, or despite the media kind of being completely in the safe confines of Mr. Modi's team, it seems to be that popular opinion is still with Mr. Modi somewhat. Would you say that the same case is there with Imran Khan, his popular opinion with Mr. Imran Khan despite disliking the media?
Well, the thing is that, his followers and his supporters and his cultists still like him a lot.
Right.
But as Pakistani media has reported this widely as well, that, the 2018 elections were not really free and fair.
Right.
And so if you have an election right now, or even if I obviously cannot predict what will happen in the 2023 elections, but if you have elections right now in Punjab, there is the opinion polls show that, the PMLN, Mr. Nawaz Sharif's party, will sweep the polls in Punjab.
Right.
And the Sindh government, which is already with the PPP, is doing really well in under the circumstances, and they're dealing really well with Corona. So this is something, and I think that's also because and I'll explain about Punjab, because in Punjab they now have a chief minister. PTI actually appointed Usman Buzdar as the chief minister. So Mr. Usman Buzdar had just joined the party before the 2018 elections. He was with the PMLN before that. And these are the first elections that he actually won as an MPA. So, and he was randomly made Chief Minister of Punjab, and which is actually, I would say that, it's even a more important job than being the Prime Minister of Pakistan, in the sense that, if you win Punjab, you get the federal government. That's what Mr. Nawaz Sharif did. He appointed his brother Shehbaz Sharif. Shehbaz Sharif ruled Punjab for 10 years. From 2008 till 2018, because Shehbaz Sharif is a very good administrator. So he was Chief Minister of Punjab and he delivered. And before him, Chaudhry Parvez Ilahi, who's from an old political family also, who's now the Speaker of Punjab Assembly, he was the Chief Minister. So people knew these people, right? And they know they can deliver, they can work, they know the bureaucracy, they're familiar with that. Now, what happened with Usman Buzdar was, it's not just about his personality, it's also that, he really did not know things. He would not talk to the media. He said something like, I'm train ho raha hu, abhi to I'm getting trained at the moment. So stuff like that, that really, and there were also reports from his meetings that, he didn't know how to deal with the bureaucracy. He did not know how to read the files. Stuff like that was like doing the rounds. So this is something that even the PTI hardcore voter did not like, that they said, this is not a PTI guy. This is not a PTI face of the PTI. So why has he been appointed Chief Minister Punjab, which is a very, very important position? So that was one thing that got PTI a lot of criticism. But what you said about Modi and Imran Khan, I'll just say that, I would say, Krishna ji, that Prime Minister Modi is actually, a certified bigot. But Imran Khan is not in that way. In the sense that, Imran Khan his statements about the minorities, and he actually believes in minority rights. His human rights minister is Shiri Mazari, who's a very liberal woman. And you can see the kind of tweets or statements that she gives, and which are not really liked by our right-wing people. So like Imran Khan that way is not bigoted, or he does not have an anti-minority policy.
Sure. No, we could actually talk endlessly about this, but let's come back to the core issue, which is the media. That's why, I want to cut you short on this part for no other reason. But after coronavirus, how has Pakistan media been affected? And have things gotten worse after coronavirus, do you think, for journalists, for newspapers, for TV stations, or has it been the same?
Actually, for the last 2.5 years, Pakistan's economy was not doing really well. Right. So the Pakistani media was already suffering. There were a lot of people lost jobs. Thousands of journalists lost jobs. Then there were huge salary cuts, even before Corona. And due to censorship also, and then because ad revenues also dried up because of the economy, the shrinking economy. So that was one reason. And then when Corona hit, and I think that now obviously a lot of journalists are talking about it. A lot of people have been laid off. A lot of people will be laid off. A lot of media owners and even top people in media organizations are saying that, we will not be able to sustain because there's no economic growth, and, how will we pay the bills? So that's one thing. And I think that it's the traditional media will suffer in a way that, a lot of people will be rendered jobless, because media is an industry just like any other industry. So obviously they need revenue. A lot of people will shift to digital, but there's not much revenue. And even though I believe that digital is the future, but there's not much revenue right now, because it all depends on the economy. So I think the Pakistani media will actually go through an even worse time in the coming months. This year will be very, very tough for us.
Do you know of any specific cases of newspapers laying off people, or TV stations laying off people, or even shutdowns? Do you know of any specific cases?
Well, one TV channel, Waqt TV channel was shut down right after the PTI government came into power because they said that, we don't have the money to sustain it and the economy is not doing that well. And more recently, AAP News channel which actually had an English channel as well, Indus News, and AAP News was the Urdu TV.
Yes.
It shut down, a lot of people obviously.
Was this after coronavirus?
Yes. This was just very recent. I think this was just two weeks ago, I think. So, and then, there obviously news comes that, 10 people have been laid off from a channel or 20 or 30. So that comes from almost all the channels, not top not organizations like Dawn or Geo at the moment, although they have also laid off some people. I mean, Geo has, but there are salary delays. So the salary delays have been, and the government, and it's also actually because, the government owes a lot of money to media organizations for ads that, because the government sometimes delays payment. So now Prime Minister has actually told the Information Ministry to release that payment. So maybe if that is there, so the channels can sustain a bit, but even then when there's no private advertising, because if the economy is not doing well, and of course because of Corona, Pakistan is going to face the recession after 69 years as per the World Bank. So I think that, things will be tough for us in that way.
As we speak, you don't have a number, right, for the number of people laid off or the number of shutdowns. You don't have a number.
No, shutdown has just been, two channels, AAP TV and Indus News during Corona days.
But I don't have or magazines?
No. Well, Newsline shut down last year.
Yes.
That was a magazine, but that was before Corona, of course.
Right.
But that was also because of, shortage of funds.
Right.
So, I don't actually have the number of journalists in front of me right now, so I don't remember on top of my head. I don't want to misquote the figure.
No problem. I saw in your piece in the Telegraph a couple of days ago, you wrote of Imran Khan actually claiming that the media enjoyed more freedom in Pakistan than in the West. And listening to you for the last 20 minutes, it strikes me as how ironic that claim is, or how contradictory that claim is. But post this coronavirus, what is the feeling you get about the way the media has covered coronavirus? Has the media been critical of the government? Has it asked questions of the government? Has it checked facts? What do you think has been the role the media has played in covering coronavirus in Pakistan?
I'd actually say that, the media has played the most important role during this entire coronavirus saga. So basically, there were no, in the beginning when coronavirus started, there were no campaigns by the government about, for raising awareness about corona. It was actually the media, especially the electronic media, that made videos, public service messages about, washing your hands for 20 minutes. And they did this free of cost, by the way. So all these campaigns were there, wash your hands, wear a mask, don't go out, stay at home. Even though, Prime Minister Imran Khan kept saying that, only older people die, it doesn't really affect the younger people that much. And he also, there was a lot of confused messaging from the federal government, I would say. And he kept saying that, lockdown means curfew, which it actually doesn't. Unless there is a curfew. So there's a difference. So he kept saying that, but, the media was the one that actually said, this is this is the definition of a lockdown. This is not a curfew. This is what we are saying that we should do because the World Health Organization is asking us to do that. Lockdown and then aggressive testing. Lockdown, aggressive testing. So the media actually, I think, played a crucial role for the governments to eventually decide and go for a lockdown. The Sindh government, which is ruled by the PPP, was the first one to announce a lockdown, and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, chairman Pakistan People's Party, and since Chief Minister Murad Ali Shah had been saying that we want to go for a lockdown, but Prime Minister Imran Khan actually kept giving out confused messages about lockdown. He really didn't want to do it, and he kept saying that I don't know what will happen to people's livelihoods and all that, which I think is understandable, but even then you had to do it because it's a pandemic. Anyway, so the Sindh government announced it on 22nd, from 23rd March there will be a lockdown.
Right.
And then the other provinces followed suit a day later. And then the federal government also had to do it. But the thing is that, it was actually the media that kept hammering and that made this consensus, I think. And also, there was this, and also people actually understood what corona is because of the media and not because of the government's messaging. So this is something media played a vital role, and even now, media keeps questioning, why are we not testing enough people? Because we are not. And why? And and media also highlights, I was actually even looking at India's quarantine centers as well. That some of them are so like there's no hygiene, like they're in such bad conditions. So Pakistani media has highlighted that as well. If the quarantine centers are not good enough, or and then also there was recently the press conferences in Karachi, in Lahore, and in some other cities by doctors. So the media covered that. And the doctors were pleading with the government not to ease the lockdown, because the government did ease the lockdown recently in mid-April. And the doctors pleaded that please do not allow congregations in mosques at least for the next 2 weeks, because our cases are growing exponentially and this will get really worse. So the media kept hammering that point, and I think that and there's been no censorship about corona, because obviously it's a pandemic, and it's not related to state matters, or it's not a sensitive subject at that. In that sense, but the media has played most of the media has played a very responsible role. Some media people have obviously, there are all these conspiracy theories doing the round. So if Trump can say it, some people in our media can also say stuff that, doesn't really make sense and has no scientific proof to back it up. But other than that, I think Pakistani media has played a very good role during this whole corona pandemic.
And you would say that for both print and electronic, right? That's what you would say.
Yes. And even...
No, some of the things you say are largely informational, in the sense that this is exactly what is expected of the media. But my core question was whether the media had been critical of government, had it checked facts, had it asked questions of government, had it put, Imran Khan on the mat. That was my core question.
Yes, of course it did. I mean, actually, Prime Minister Imran Khan had a few media interactions also, which were telecasted live on all TV channels. And the journalists were very critical. The journalists asked very hard-hitting questions. In fact, a lot of them later had to face online trolling because of the questions that they had asked, especially these anchors. Yes, so that way the media has been has asked the right questions, has praised the government when it needs to, when the government is doing something good, and it also keeps talking about lack of testing, aggressive testing in Pakistan. So we keep pointing that out, and yes, that way the Pakistani media has done that.
What to your mind has been the toughest question that Pakistani media has asked the Pakistani Prime Minister?
Well, I mean, of course, there was, because we were talking about Mir Shakil ur Rahman earlier. So, the journalists even asked him questions related to Mir Shakil ur Rahman in that live press conference. Then they also asked him that, you said that curfew and lockdown is there, but what's the difference? I mean, you couldn't really tell the difference, and you didn't want a lockdown. They asked the right questions, I believe, and, they were quite tough. And also, actually, I'd say that, there was a meeting with the opposition, obviously an online video conference meeting that the Prime Minister addressed, and when before Shehbaz Sharif or Bilawal Bhutto could speak, the Prime Minister, after his speech, he just left that video conference. So in protest, the leaders of the other two parties, they said that, we will not attend this session because we thought that the Prime Minister had invited us so he could also listen to us and our point of view. Even though other senior leaders of PTI, including Shah Mahmood Qureshi, were there, but obviously it's protocol, and that he should have been there. And the media actually asked him questions about that during his live press conference. That why are you not cooperating with the opposition, or why are you not taking them on board? So media has been asking the right questions, I'd say, and very critical.
It's very heartening actually to hear what you're saying when you say that Imran Khan had a live press conference. I mean, it almost, I feel
Many live
envious.
press conferences. Yeah.
I feel very envious of you, and I'm sure many in the Indian media will feel very envious that the Prime Minister of Pakistan can have a live press conference with supplementaries asked. I presume there are supplementaries also being asked in those. Press. Has he given a formal interview in the last few weeks, Mr. Imran Khan? You think?
Well, the thing is that he has addressed the nation, I think, 3 times now, ever since the corona pandemic outbreak started, and he has also held these live press conferences 3 or 4 times, and then he also had a telethon that he hosted along with, like, he was there, he chaired that telethon to raise funds for the corona relief, and it had a lot of top journalists, top anchors over there. So that's what he's done. He's not given interviews, but obviously because people ask him questions during those telethons and during those press conferences, he's so that's there, but not.
Have you had a chance to look at Indian television and Mr. Modi during this coronavirus?
I've been following Indian channels on Twitter mostly, and Indian news and I read the Hindu, and I read other papers as well. So I follow that news, but I haven't really been able to watch Indian TV channels.
So between Mr. Modi and Mr. Imran Khan, who do you think has presented himself better in terms of the media, in these last 3, 4, 5 weeks?
Well, the thing is that, unlike Mr. Modi, I mean, you just raised this point as well, but and I've seen a lot of my Indian journalist friends saying that, Mr. Modi does not hold press conferences. But that way, Prime Minister Imran Khan is very open to having these live press conferences, or, taking questions, or meeting anchors and meeting journalists on and off. So this is something that he does regularly. And so I think that way Prime Minister Imran Khan is different from Mr. Modi. The way that they've handled, well, as I said, that there was a confused messaging from the federal government from day one. And that was from Prime Minister Imran Khan, because he was conflicted, and I truly understand the conflict as well, Krishnaji. Because I do think that, yes, everybody is worried about economy. Everybody is worried what will the poor do. And as a Prime Minister, of course, it's his responsibility, and he's worried. He's rightly worried. But then again, you have to choose between deaths and economy. That's something that is a very tough decision. But you have to take it as the leader. But he was himself, I think, conflicted. So that's why the masses were confused. His messaging was also confusing for the masses, because he kept saying that, only 1 to 2% people die, or, people above a certain age die, older people die, not younger people, it's fine. So that kind of messaging was a bit worrying for us. I think that if you compare the two prime ministers, Prime Minister Imran Khan is still better in handling the media, and even better at handling the corona situation overall, if you look at Pakistan's numbers.
No. So therefore, when you wrote that Imran Khan said that the media enjoy more freedom in Pakistan than the West, actually, the media enjoy more freedom in Pakistan than the East, actually, when you look at it.
Then it's neighbor, yes, certainly.
No, I mean, let me come to my last couple of questions. Has there been any kind of scapegoating within Pakistani media? I mean, besides, of course, the conspiracy theory, has the Pakistani media tried to find a scapegoat like the Indian media has been trying to? And also, as a supplementary to that question, how do you view this kind of, communalization or a pandemic in the Indian media?
Okay, so coming to your first question, well, there were no scapegoats as such, but Pakistan's corona cases, most of them have come from 2, 3, or 3, 4 sources. So one was the pilgrims who were returning from Iran, and at the Balochistan border, the Taftan-Iran border, the quarantine centers were not proper. So a lot of cases spread from there, because when they went back to their provinces from Taftan, they were carriers. Then a lot of people who had returned from Saudi Arabia, from Umrah, were also corona positive or carriers. Then people who had traveled to Europe and other countries, who had come back from various airports, international travel, they were carriers. And then the Tablighi Ijtima that happened in Lahore, which was cut short by, I think, 3 days. There were a lot of corona positive cases from that as well. Now there are of course local transmissions, but these were most of the cases. So the thing is that we criticized the actually why the quarantine centers were not ready at Taftan. The media criticized that. The media raised questions about it. Why weren't we prepared when we knew that China, we are just border. We're China's neighbors. So obviously we should have been prepared for that, but we weren't. That the media has criticized they've criticized the government for that. But I think overall there has been no scapegoat as such.
No, let me just stop you
Yeah.
there, because I want to ask you a question there. Pakistan has been pretty close to China. China has been pretty close to Pakistan. There's been lots of Chinese investments, lots of Chinese employees within Pakistan. Has the Pakistan media tried to point fingers at the Chinese or the Chinese employees or the Chinese companies in these last 3-4 weeks?
Not really, Krishnaji. And I think one of the reasons is that there weren't many cases from China. There were a few Chinese who tested positive for corona, but not that many numbers, to be honest. So as I said, that most of our cases were actually from Iran or Saudi Arabia or international travel. Maybe that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is also that, Pakistanis hardly criticize China. And because of our strategic partnership with them, and because China of course is there, supports us at the UN and other big forums where others don't really support us, but China has been there with us through thick and thin. So maybe that's another reason, and also because of CPEC, because they've brought in a lot of investment. But actually, and obviously you cannot really, but you can see the numbers, you can check the numbers. So there are not many cases that actually came from China in Pakistan. So that's also the thing. The other thing that you talked about, the communalization.
No, one sec. Let's come to that again. But let me ask you this one last question on this Chinese aspect. Has there been anybody within Pakistani media, print or electronic or digital, who has called this the Chinese virus in the way Donald Trump has, or even in the way in some of which in the way some of the RSS Sangh Parivar fellows in India have? Has anybody called this the Chinese virus?
No, not that I know of, because as Desis, I know that we are quite racist. But yes, that cuts across border. We are racist, but actually, no fingers have been pointed at China as such. And in fact, I think there's also another reason for that, because China has really helped Pakistan during Corona as well. They've sent their experts, health officials, and also there have been a lot of communication between China and Pakistan on how to deal with Corona when it started in Pakistan, the outbreak started in Pakistan. So China has been officially helping us a lot with the coronavirus. So I think that's also one of the reasons.
I asked you this question because one of the American newspapers, I think the Wall Street Journal, used to publish a supplement produced by the Chinese government. And I know that this supplement also appears in one of the Pakistani newspapers. Has there been any effort to stop Chinese supplements? I've seen Pakistani newspapers with actually Chinese ads, and I'm sure you know those things too. So I was wondering if there's been any kind of blowback because of that.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, China has been praised for their help, for sending in their health officials, for sending us testing kits, sending us masks, so helping us with Corona. I don't think that, I have not seen anything anti-China in Pakistani press at all. Or even within the people, there's no anti-China sentiment, even within the people due to Corona.
That's fine. So let me come to that other question I asked you. How do you view the Indian media coverage, whatever you have seen of it, especially television media, and especially also the communalization of the pandemic? And by trying, what did you as a Pakistani and as a Muslim, how did you look at a supposedly free democracy, the way it was, or a free media in a free democracy, the way it had succumbed and communalize the pandemic? How did you view it? You don't need to necessarily talk to me about the facts, but how did you view it as just a phenomenon?
Okay, so I saw a lot of it on social media. I saw a lot of videos. I saw a lot of fake news was doing the rounds in India, and targeting Muslims with old videos. So the thing is that say this, that, in 2014, when Narendra Modi won his first election, I actually wrote a piece in Midday in an Indian paper.
Right.
And I said that, India will change. And this was my prediction, because based on, our own experience with General Ziaul Haq and how he had Islamized the country, very differently. I mean, we are an Islamic republic, but, we were never like what we are now. And this is all thanks to General Zia in a way. So I wrote that, we've been through this, and I actually foresee that India will change in the next 5 years. Your society will change. The fabric of your society will change, because, when bigots rule the country, or when such hardcore line is taken against minorities by the leadership, by the person on top, then it spreads in the society. It's inevitable. So this is something that I wrote back then, and I've seen that, and it's, to be honest, Krishnaji, it's very unfortunate, because I have a lot of friends in India. I used to look up to India's secularism, your constitution, and even the media. And I used to think that, Pakistan should have a secular constitution, and, Pakistan, just to learn from India and all that, but unfortunately, I've seen the decline of Indian media, of Indian society, of India's secularism. That is something that is, personally, it is very tragic in a way that, when you see, it's not, I'm not one of those Pakistanis who would be happy that, I said this, ye to hona hi tha, I predicted this. But, this is something that I actually, as a neighbor, I see with concern. So what they did with the Tabligis, and what they did with targeting the Muslim community during this whole corona outbreak, was actually heartbreaking. Because it's not about me being a Muslim or not. It's actually, even if it is happening to any other minorities, and when it happens to our own minorities, like even if it happens to Hindus or Sikhs or Ahmadis or others in Pakistan, when, they are targeted for something, or when they are attacked, we raise our voice. So I'm actually, I was not shocked, but I'd just say I was just disheartened and very sad to see what happened.
So let me just come to the very last question. You've spoken very well, Mehmalji, and I thank you so much. But one last question I want to ask you, in the context of coronavirus, and in the context of people losing jobs and shutdowns and so on, and censorship and so on. What has been the institutional support that the media has found in Pakistan, in the midst of all this? Have the courts been of help? Has the regulatory authority, PEMRA, been of any help? Have there been journalist bodies and unions which have stood up and asked for security and so on? Has there been any institutional support for you in this crisis?
Well, PEMRA and they've actually, the government, as I said before, that the government has now said that, we'll release the funds that we owe to the media organizations. Or not funds, actually the money that they owe, ad revenue. And also, PEMRA and the courts have also told media owners to pay the salaries that are pending.
Right.
Although, some media channels or media organizations keep delaying that, but there are cases in courts, and of course there are complaints with the regulatory authority as well, and they've told the owners to pay up. So that's one thing, institutional. So, press, government is also giving money to press clubs also, so in supporting journalists, for their relief funds, or, helping journalists that way. But at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to the economy. So if our economy is not doing well, we make the media makes most of its money from private advertisers, private companies. So if they're not making enough money, it will be difficult for the media to sustain such a large number of people. They will inevitably be downsizing, and, some channels may close, some newspapers may shut down. So, that's something that, we'll know that by the end of this year or in the next 6 months, I think.
Have organizations like the All Pakistan Newspaper Society, led by my friend Sarmad Ali, have they ever gone to the government seeking any kind of support, any kind of advertising, any kind of funding, any kind of stimulus?
Well, ads, the government rolls out ads in any case. And all media organizations ask for government ads when there's a campaign. But more than that, I think all these organizations ask the government to pay the money that was owed to the media organizations by the government, which they're going to pay now. Yes. So APNS and CPNE, PFUJ, Pakistan Federal Union of Journalists and others, they have been asking government, that one, they have talked about censorship also. And they've also said that the media industry has suffered a lot because of the government's policies and also government's economic policies. So the government must do something for journalists and for the media industry. That they've done. And now ever since Mir Shakil Rahman has been arrested, there have been a lot of protests by all these journalist unions and organizations, and they've all said that you must not target the owners of the largest media group, because that means that you're actually harassing journalists, and it's an attack on media freedom in Pakistan.
Right. So one absolutely final last question. Okay, this is the question, which is, what would you, as a Pakistani, as a journalist, as a leading member of SAFMA, and as a person who looks at India from across the border, what is the one piece of advice you will give to Indian media and to Indian journalists looking at what has happened in the last 3-4 weeks? What is that one piece of advice you will tell them? And given your own experience in Pakistan of what has happened to media freedom, what is that one piece of advice you will give us in India?
Well, I think, that once you start towing the government's line for whatever reasons, for commercial purposes or for any other reason, if you give them that space, if you cede that space, you will never regain it. And once you've ceded that space, it will keep shrinking. So I think that's something that the Indian media should learn from Pakistan and from other countries where, we don't enjoy that kind of media freedom that the West enjoys. That's something, who would have thought that leading channels in the US are saying that, we will not cover Donald Trump's press conferences.
Yeah.
I think most of us in India or in Pakistan will never be able to do that because we've already ceded so much space to the state.
Right.
Narrative. Yes.
Right. Well, Mehmal Sarfraz, that was wonderful talking to you, and you came across very well, and I think we are all enlightened by what you have to say about what's happening in Pakistan and also, frankly, what's happening in India. And I thank you very much for joining me on this episode of JPod, and it was great to talk to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.